Good morning everyone. Welcome back to the class. Yes. Are you ready? Shall we start a class? Okay. So, what is the name of second chapter? As I told, we should not forget to remember. Otherwise, we should not forget the concept name, otherwise the heading of any chapter. Because if you remember the heading of any chapter or concept, you can remember the whole things what we will be going to discuss or what we discuss. So, what is the name of chapter? Yes, it is land, water, soil, and natural vegetation. And wildlife. So it's the name of a chapter. Here about the land we discuss. As we discussed earlier, these are all examples of natural resources. Then water, then about soil we discuss. About soil we discussed about water. In the last class we were discussing water. How many percent of our earth's surface covered by the water? Yes, 70% of our earth's surface covered by water. And is that renewable resource or non-renewable resource? Yes, water is a renewable resource. So what are those factors which is affecting for the availability of water? Because of the factor we are facing scarcity in the water. So what are those problems or what are those factors which is leading or which is causes for facing a problem in water or scarcity of water? Yes, mainly one is about population, is not. Then urbanization, mining activity, and the demand increases. It's increasing as the population is increasing. Demand also is increasing for food crops and cash crops. That's what we discussed in the last class. Now we'll continue with the continuation of this concept. About land we discuss, and the soil. Now it's about the water. Land, soil. Now it's about the water. Now the problems of water availability. Problems of water availability. So here on the earth's surface, what you have 30% of earth's surface covered by the land. Here in the land surface, we are not having or we are not getting the availability of water equally, because the resources are not distributed equally. That means unequally distributed. Resources are being unequally distributed over the earth's surface. So in that, water is also one among them. So this water is not equally distributed. Why? What is the reason? For every activity and for every availability of resource, there is a reason. The mineral is not equally distributed. We can find the mineral only in a particular places because it's depend on the parent rock. It is depend on the weathering, process of weathering, climate, high temperature, low temperature, and the water and the wind. So it's based on that you will get a places where it has having more deposition of mineral. Same like that, this water also is having some reason behind of availability in only particular places. It's available in only particular places, and there are some other places where we don't get a water. We have a reason. So because of that, we are not getting the water in every way. What are those problems? But what are those factors which creates, or what are those things which causes for not getting an equal amount of water in every way? What are those problems? Like the fresh water, only 0.01% 0.01% is available on the Earth's surface. So here, this water availability over the Earth's surface is not equal, because suppose it's Earth's surface, it's a globe, otherwise it's a world. Here we have climatic zone, like you may say it's a heat zone. We have a 3 heat zone in the Earth. One it is torrid zone, it's a temperate zone, and here we have frigid zone. We have discussed about this in a 7th class. It's not torrid zone, temperate zone, and frigid zone. Here in this zone we get high temperature because sun rays that directly falls on this area. So the reason you will get a more water by the rainfall. When these areas get heat up by this sunlight, then the waters on this area that evaporates easily, then that converts into these clouds by the condensation. Then we will get a precipitation called as rainfall and many other things. By that, this area receives more rainfall. So for the growth of plants, that is required of sunlight and water and all those things. So then we will get a more availability of like more vegetations are found in this area, torrid zone. So that directly supports towards availability of water. So this area is having more availability of water compared with these 2 areas. Like same, we call it with the name temperate zone. So these are the temperate zone because this area will not receive the direct sunlight as like this area receives. Because you know our Earth is tilted. It's tilted towards 23 of degree, 23.5 degree. It's tilted. So that reason, these areas that will not receive direct fall of sunlight. So these areas will not be having much water availability because that will not have any chance of getting evaporation of water there, so that can create a cloud like this, then get a precipitation. So that reason, these areas will not get much availability of water. It's one of the problem. It's one of the problem. It's physically and naturally it is there. It's a natural problem or natural consequences what we are having a water availability problem. Apart from this, the human beings or human activities is also leading towards having problem in the availability of water, like over exploitation, exploiting the water unlimited. Suppose it's we need of 1 bucket of water for having a bath, but we make use of the 3 buckets for taking a bath. So that is leading towards wastage of water. And the people who are in need of water, they don't get a water. So it's over exploitation. It's a small example for the over exploitation. Then, like contamination of water, contamination like polluting the water by adding some other toxic waste material into the water. It's a contamination of water. It's also another one human activity which is leading towards problem in getting water availability over the Earth's surface. The whole world is facing a problem. The main problem of whole world is having, otherwise getting fresh water, and otherwise you can say adequate water. You know, then the landmass we have the more space which is covered by the water. But we cannot use all the waters. Why? You know, in among 100%, 97% of water is saline water. That means it's a salt water we cannot use for our basic need as our basic need. Only in a 1% we get that water only in torrid zones. So whatever the water we are getting in the torrid zone, in that we have a less amount of water for the fresh water. Yes, we are getting some fresh water and adequate water. So the whole Earth or whole world is facing a problem in getting a fresh and adequate water. What are the consequences? it may be a consequences of so in the seasonally and annually we have variation precipitation. You know what is precipitation? What is precipitation? So precipitation is nothing but falling of water. Like it may be in a different forms, like a fog, water. We have you'll get a fog in the early morning. You'll get a mist, fog, drizzling, rainfall. These are the forms of water where we get, or where we get a water from the height of atmosphere. It falls on the earth's surface due to the gravitational force. So it's all called as a precipitation. Anything which falls on the earth's surface from the atmosphere is called as precipitation. So this precipitation, mainly the rainfall, we are not getting in over the earth's surface and everywhere we are not getting equally. Because as we discussed in the last before the 5 minutes, as I told, or as I discussed by drawing this picture, our earth area is divided into 3 heat zones. One is torrid, temperate and frigid zone. So in the torrid zone you will get a more rainfall because sunlight that falls directly in the torrid zone. That's the reason you get a more rainfall. Other than that, in the 2 zones, like a temperate zone and the frigid zone, we don't get much water because sunlight is not directly falls on that. So that it can create a precipitation, like evaporation of water, then condensation, cloud, and precipitation, and doesn't create over in these places. So it's one of the reasons, like a variation in the rainfall in a particular places that creates a problem in availability of water. Then overexploitation. We are facing a scarcity of water, fresh water, adequate water. We are getting a scarcity problem in that because of overexploitation. So using the water unlimited. So that's one of the other problem we are facing. Then contamination of water. So contamination is like polluting. Contamination of water. Polluting by disposing the industrial waste and many domestical waste, and we are using the water for many other activities which creates a problem to the fresh water. That's another problem what we are facing. So because of all these 3 important factors or important points or important activities, we are facing a problem in the water availability. Mainly there are 2 factors, one is natural factor and the human factor. So it's one directly related to the natural factor. These 2 are of human factors. Then not only that, like industrialization. In the modern age, industrialization is grown up, means it is spread in the over the Earth's surface. The industrialization is increased, it is spread. So because of industrialization, the water, the fresh water what we are getting earlier, adequate water, it's got polluted. You know, for the industries, it's required more water. Fresh water is required for the industries in the first level. In order to get more profit from the industrialization, many people, like many business people, they have spoiled and they have contaminated the water by discharging after all the levels. By discharging waste material into the river water, fresh water, it has created a problem of water availability over the Earth's surface. Industrialization, and urbanization. It's also cause for problem of water availability. Because of this urbanization, whatever the sources of water we had on the Earth's surface, like a pond, lake, river, everything is filled by some mud or many other waste materials, and they are constructed buildings. For example, you may say in the Bangalore, there was 4 important lakes in the city. What we have a city in the Bangalore, in that particular city we had 4 important big rivers were there at that time. For increasing the settlement area or urbanization, in order to get more urbanization over there or to improve the urbanization activity, what they did, they closed all the rivers, 4 rivers, the ponds, it may call as lake. Ponds, say it's a pond. So pond is cleared, all the 4 ponds got cleared, then they constructed the huge buildings. So because of that reason, we are facing a water availability. Even now, when the Bangalore gets rain, and it will be under flood. Like most of the people get a problem because of the water, the flow of water. Because earlier it was a pond, the shallow area it was a pond. Now they have constructed buildings. So that reason they face a problem. Not only for that, the availability of fresh water. Because of all these factors, they are facing a problem in the availability of fresh water. Right on? We'll go for the next one. Right on this concept. The conservation. Next is about conservation of water resources. Now this is the problem because of this problem. In the last class also we discussed about the factors which creates a problem, or the problem which is responsible, or the problem which causes for scarcity in water. We discussed in the last class. Please here the availability of water, we are facing a problem in the availability of water. So even this also the problems or the factors which is leading towards availability of water, a problem in the availability of water. Right on this concept? Is it over? Is it over? Yes. So these are the problems, or these are the factors which is leading or which is affecting to have a problem in getting fresh water or adequate water. These are the causes for the availability of water what we are facing because of these factors. So now we will discuss the measures, conservation measures. We need to apply, we need to get into these measures, we need to follow all these measures and methods to conserve the water, because this water, soil and land what we are discussing, it's all basic needs. If you don't conserve this, our whole world will be under problem in coming days or in the coming future. Our whole world and every living and non-living organisms will be under the problem. So that reason we should have some conservation measures. When we treat nature or when we adore the nature will help us, isn't it? When we treat nature good, and that nature will help us even too. So now it's about water, conservation of water resources, conservation of water. The third concept in under this main concept, conservation of water resources. So here the water is a renewable resources. Water is a renewable resources. That means what is a renewable? The resources which can be replenished, which can be reproduced, or which can be regenerated in the shorter period of time. It's what is renewable resource. That means once if you use the resources, you can get that again and again, like air, water, sunlight. We don't need to wait for a much longer time to get that again. These are called as renewable resources. So water is one of the examples for these renewable resources. The water is a renewable resources, the main important renewable resources. Water is a renewable natural resources. But it's a renewable resources. If you use that, once if you use that resources, we can get again and again. But due to the pollution and due to over exploitation, we are facing a problem of getting availability of water. Even the water is unlimitedly available. So because it's unlimitedly available, we are using that resources carelessly. So that is creating a problem for us in return. So that's the main problem. It's a renewable resource as well due to pollution and over exploitation. Due to pollution and over exploitation, it has become problem get water. Earlier it was not like that because population was not there much and the technology was not developed and the people demand was less. We were getting availability of water, but now the population is more, technology got improved. The people that started to make use of every resources which is available on the earth's surface with using a technology. For their technology, for completing their activity, there is a need of basic needs like this water. So for every activity, we are using this water. Water is renewable, yes, but we are polluting the water unlimitedly. We are not controlling in our what we are polluting, we are not having control in that. We are not having control in that. So that's the main problem what we are facing. So for that, we need to have some measures. We should adopt some measures to conserve the water. What are those? Like proper management of sewage, and reduction in disposal or discharge of industrial effluents or waste into river water or any waters. So here we should have a proper management and you should reduce the disposal and the discharge of industrial waste. You might be knowing about that. The Ganga river in the northern part of India, in the North India, Ganga river, when it originates from Himalayan mountain ranges, it's a very fresh water. When it enters into the Uttar Pradesh, it will be fresh initially. Then when it after the what you call the Uttar Pradesh, when it reaches into the West Bengal, it will be polluted. The color of a river, it will be changed into a different color. Why it's so? Because of the disposal and discharge of industrial waste into the river water, it completely contaminates. It completely changes its color and changes its quantity, and it will become toxic after that. So that's the main reason. So there we need to have some proper management in all those things, like a sewage and drainage and sewage. We should have a management in that. Most of the cities, what they are doing, they directly connect the sewage into this river water. All their waste materials in the waste waters that will be dumped in the river water. Instead of that, we can make some management like that. We can put somewhere else, like in the wasteland. So that's what is management we should have in that. Then about the mining activity. So for the mining activity, that's required of more land. So whatever the waste material we get from that mining activity will be dumped. It will be dumped in the waters and gazettes, small gazettes, and the materials will be dumped in the water. We should have a reduction in that. Then nowadays, so from many years back, from 100 and 150 years back, it has been started to pollute or contaminate the river. River, not only river water, the pond and lake water. How? By adding chemical and fertilizer into the agriculture field. You can ask, so how? If we add a chemical fertilizer and pesticide in the agriculture activity or agriculture land, how the water of a river and a pond it will be polluted? Yes, it will be polluted. How? Suppose you add a fertilizer and chemical fertilizer and pesticide in your agriculture field. When rain precipitation happens, prevails in that agriculture field, along with the runoff water, whatever the chemical pesticides and fertilizer we added there, it will be carried along with the runoff water, and when the runoff water that meet or that discharges or that connect to the river or pond water, then automatically the river water will be polluted with this chemical fertilizer. And then whatever the we have life in the river and the pond, it will be dead. So that's the main problem. So there we should reduce, should have a reduction in using chemical fertilizer in agriculture activity. Then about canals, you might be knowing about the canals. This in the irrigation facility you will be having a canals in the agriculture area. For the first time, the Chola kingdom, when Raja first was ruling the southern part of India, the Chola kingdom, like a Chola king, and he has constructed the canals to get availability of water for the farmers. It's one of the method, so proper method, so that the people can get a water availability, and that water will not disturb any other activities like the plants will not be polluted, and that like landslide will not be happen if you construct canals over there. So by constructing the proper canals, so we can reduce the pollution of water. So it's all the ways, and you know, from our 6th class we have been discussing about rainwater harvesting. It's one of the best method, rainwater harvesting. Even now also the people in Rajasthan, they are using rainwater harvesting, and also they are using this rainwater for drinking. It's a fresh water. Rainwater is a fresh water. In Rajasthan, they are using the rainwater, the rooftop water for drinking. And you can have a rainwater for harvesting. Rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting. It's another one important, and it's it's a basic one. From many years we have been discussing, from the 6th class we have been discussing about this rainwater harvesting. From the 7th class we are discussing about rainwater harvesting. What is this rainwater harvesting? Rooftop, you may call it as a rooftop harvesting. Suppose it's a house, home. Here you will be having a roof like this. Suppose it's a cloud and we got rainwater. Then rainwater will be gathered, will be filled here. So this water which is filled in the rooftop can be made to store in one tank. It can be made to store in the one tank. So that water can be used for many other activities. This water can be used for the harvesting. It can be used for the irrigation activity. It's rainwater harvesting. So have you got the rain? So this water will be accumulated over in the rooftop. With a proper management, we can make that water to be stored in one tank. This water will be stored over here in the tank, and we can make use of that water for many activity, for agriculture activity, for domestic activity, and also for the drinking. Also, we can make use of this water because the rainwater is a fresh water. It's called as rainwater harvesting. It's the best way to make use of water, like collecting rainwater from is stored in the rooftop can be collected into the water, like the tank. That water can be transported into the tank which is there on the, suppose we have kept that in ground, on the ground. So that rooftop water can be stored in the tank by proper management with some pipe or otherwise any other thing. We can store there and we can make use of that water. So it's some of the ways which we need to adopt for having conservation of water. Write down this answer. Write down. Make it fast. So now that's what we discussed about water. This all the three concepts completed. Now we'll go for the natural vegetation and wildlife. So we'll discuss natural vegetation and wildlife together, because this natural vegetation and wildlife is both interconnected. So together we will discuss about these two concepts. We are left with one more concept. So this is about the water, the conservation of water resources. We must conserve the water resources because it's a basic need. One that is a renewable resources. Due to the pollutes and contamination of water, we are facing a problem. We are getting a scarcity of water because of pollution. Isn't it? Here it's a renewable, but due to the pollution and over exploitation and the contamination, we are facing a problem in getting the fresh water. For that, we should have some conservation measures. To get a fresh water, to get a adequate water, availability of adequate water, we should have a conservation of resources. Like we should get into the methods to conserve the water. What is conservation? We discussed about the concept in the while we were discussing land and soil. Conservation is nothing but protection and proper use of resources. Conservation of water means protection and preservation of water is called as conservation of water. Protection and proper management, proper use and preservation of water is called as conservation. So for that, we should have proper management of sewage. The connection of drainage into the river water that damages, that contaminates the water. For that, we should have a proper management. That means we should not connect our sewage into the seawater or any river water, any water. Then reduction in discharge of industrial effluents or industrial waste. We should reduce that ourselves. As I told, example in North India, there are 3 perennial rivers. That means the rivers which will have water throughout the year is called as perennial river in North India. But the 3 rivers, main rivers like Ganga, Brahmaputra, Indus, all these 3 rivers, it's polluting. Day by day it's getting pollution. Initially, in the beginning it will be fresh water. In the end, eventually when it enters into the sea, Bay of Bengal, it will be polluted water because of the discharge of industrial waste and because of discharge of sewages are connecting the sewages into the river water. It's all main reasons for pollution of water there. Then we should have reduction in using chemical fertilizers in the agriculture area. It's indirectly affecting towards contamination of water. We will not be knowing how it will affect the water, how it will contaminate the water, but it indirectly affects the water. The fresh water will be affected, contaminated, polluted, intoxicated by this chemical fertilizer added in the agriculture field. And the rainwater harvesting is a main or one of the important activities which can give us a way to make use of water properly. It's about rainwater harvesting. If you want to use the water availability what we are getting over the earth's surface, properly, it's one of the main activities like rainwater harvesting. We can use the rainwater for many activities, not only for agriculture. We can use this rainwater for agriculture activity and also for the drinking and also for the domestic purpose. So it's one of the main activity. So these are all the conservation methods which we need to follow for saving our water resources so that it can be available in the future. It's about this water concept. Now we discuss about these three concepts, and next class we will be discussing about these two, natural vegetation and wildlife. We will discuss both combined. Okay.